The mid-18th century, England was still an agricultural country. People spun yarn by hand and worked with simple tools in small homes. But one day, a poor barber, an ordinary wig maker, changed the course of history. He invented factories, brought people out of their homes into workshops, and became one of the pioneers of the Industrial Revolution. His name, Richard Arkwright. Let's take a look at 10 facts about him. Fact 1. Birth. Richard Arkwright was born on December 23, 1732, in the northern English town of Preston. He was the child of a simple and very poor family. His parents worked hard for their daily livelihood, but with such a large family, they could never escape need. Richard was one of 13 children and, from an early age, felt that to succeed in life, he would have to rely on his own strength. His greatest challenge was education. At that time, children from poor families were not sent to school because they had to work at home and help their families. As a result, Richard grew up without learning to read or write. However, this did not break his determination. Later, through his own effort, he learned letters, reading, writing, and even basic arithmetic. Few could have imagined that this uneducated child from a poor barber family would one day leave a mark on the world's economic history. Arkwright's birth seemed like the beginning of an ordinary life, but his journey showed that sometimes great revolutions begin in the humblest of homes. Fact 2. The uneducated child. Richard Arkwright could not attend school as a child. His family was very poor, so it was more important for children to help with daily work than to get an education. As part of a large family, he started looking for ways to earn money at home and on the streets from a young age. At that time in England, educational opportunities were mainly reserved for the nobility and children of wealthy families. Children of poor villagers and city dwellers often grew up illiterate. Arkwright was one of them. He entered youth without knowing how to read or write. But his greatest advantage was different: an immense curiosity, keen observation, and a strong desire to learn. Later, through his own efforts, he learned letters, reading, and simple arithmetic. He understood how crucial education was to change his life. He might not have mastered reading and writing perfectly, but his intellect, hard work, and practical skills paved the way for his future inventions. This child, who had never been to school and could barely read a book, would go on to create inventions that opened the doors of factories across Europe and sparked the Industrial Revolution. Richard Arkwright showed that true determination and effort can often achieve what books alone cannot. Fact 3. He was a professional barber. The young Richard Arkwright's first profession might surprise many. He was neither an engineer nor a scientist. His career began with barbering. Richard cut hair, made wigs, and worked with hair dyes. At that time, wigs were fashionable in England. Nobles, wealthy merchants, and even judges wore long, elaborate wigs. It was not just a fashion statement, but also a symbol of status and influence. Arkwright took advantage of this trend to build a clientele. He didn't stop at simply cutting hair. He searched for special recipes to make wigs and concoctions that would keep hair color lasting longer. It is said that he became quite skilled at this craft and began earning some income, even if modest. However, the market was changing. By the mid-18th century, the demand for wigs was gradually declining. Fashion was shifting, and people preferred simpler appearances. This posed a risk for Richard, as his main source of income was diminishing. It was at this moment that Arkwright began to think, how else can I earn money? What does my future hold? And the answer soon became clear: in the world of cotton and yarn. This decision marked the first step in the transformation of a simple barber into a key figure of the Industrial Revolution. Fact 4. Entry into the textile industry. For Richard Arkwright, barbering and wig making no longer promised a future. Fashion was changing, and people preferred simplicity. This meant that wigs, once a source of income, were gradually losing demand. Thinking about his future, Richard began searching for new opportunities. At that time, the cotton and yarn industry in England was rapidly developing. Demand was increasing, and trade was expanding. But there was a problem. Yarn was spun by hand, which was very time-consuming. Home-based weavers struggled to meet orders. In other words, the market lacked speed and mass production. Arkwright saw this as a great opportunity. He did not just want to earn money. He was searching for something bigger, At first, he engaged in simple tasks related to cotton and yarn, learning how the industry worked. He spoke with weavers, listened to their challenges, and came to a conclusion. If a mechanism could be created to speed up yarn spinning, it could change the entire industry. Fact 5. The invention of the water frame, 1769. In the 1760s, the textile industry in England was growing rapidly, but the biggest problem was yarn production. Hand-operated weavers struggled to meet orders. This challenge occupied Richard Arkwright's mind. He began with a simple question: what if a machine could do the work of human hands? Arkwright experimented with various mechanisms for a long time. He collaborated with skilled inventors and tested his ideas. Finally, in 1769, a historic moment arrived. He invented the water frame, a water-powered spinning machine. The invention may have seemed simple, but it was revolutionary. The machine worked with large wheels and could spin several threads at the same time, far faster than human hands. Most importantly, it was powered by water. In other words, it was no longer human hands, but nature itself, flowing rivers and mill water wheels that controlled yarn production. The water frame didn't just increase speed, it also improved quality. The yarn became stronger, finer, and more uniform. With this invention, Arkwright took textile production to an entirely new level. Fact 6. The factory system. Richard Arkwright did not stop at inventing a machine. His idea was bigger: to reorganize production. The water frame already made fast yarn production possible, but this machine alone could not reach its full potential with home-based weavers. Arkwright realized that for success, workers, machines, and raw materials needed to be brought together in one place. Thus, he established the world's first large factories. In these factories, workers did not work at home, but in a single location: the workshop. The machines were powered by water, and workers followed strict daily schedules. This not only sped up production. Arkwright's factory system laid the foundation for modern industrial discipline and mass production. Everything became organized and planned. Workers worked set hours, machines ran continuously, and the output was higher quality and more consistent. His factories also accelerated economic growth. Thousands of people in England got jobs for the first time, and industrial centers formed in cities. Arkwright's initiative changed not only technology, but also the structure of society itself. Fact 7. The face of the Industrial Revolution. Richard Arkwright was no longer just an inventor. He had become a symbol of the Industrial Revolution. His invention of the water frame and his factory system completely transformed England's economic landscape. People stopped producing small goods at home and began working in a single location: the factory. This laid the foundation for an industrial society. Arkwright's factories created jobs for thousands of people. Migration from villages to cities began, and new industrial centers emerged. Production in England was no longer solely dependent on manual labor. Machines worked quickly, and the output was higher quality and more uniform. His influence was not limited to the economy. Arkwright's ideas spread worldwide. Factories were built in other countries, and the Industrial Revolution became a global phenomenon. Born as a poor barber's child, he now remained in history as a symbol of the revolution. Richard Arkwright demonstrated that a single person's vision and determination can change the lives of thousands and rewrite the course of an entire era. He was not just an inventor, he was a figure who changed the world. Fact 8. He became very wealthy. Richard Arkwright came from a poor family, but through his hard work and smart decisions, he completely transformed his life. His inventions and factory system accelerated the Industrial Revolution in England and made him one of the wealthiest men in the country. Richard was no longer just an inventor. He had become a prominent businessman and entrepreneur. The income from his factories provided a comfortable life for his family and earned him social influence. His financial success also demonstrated that a simple child, with the right decisions and dedication, could become a significant figure in world history. But wealth was not just about money. Arkwright's impact extended to society. Thousands of people in his factories gained stable employment for the first time. Industrial centers formed in cities, and England's economic power grew. Thus, the poor barber's child, through his effort and vision, became not only financially rich, but also a true symbol of the Industrial Revolution and a figure who left a lasting mark on history. Fact 9. Religious faith. Richard Arkwright was not only a great inventor and industrialist, but also a man of deep faith. He spent much of his life working hard and responsibly, while giving great importance to religious values. Arkwright always believed that faith guided human life. He did not limit himself to providing material welfare for his workers. He also cared about their moral and spiritual development. In his factories, certain rules were implemented, not just for discipline, but to bring order and moral value to the lives of his employees. Arkwright's religious beliefs were reflected in his decisions and lifestyle. He understood that a simple life, diligence, and honesty could lead a person not only to material wealth, but also to spiritual richness. To set an example for others, he remained faithful to ethical and religious values, both at work and in his daily life. Fact 10. Death and legacy. Richard Arkwright passed away on August 3, 1792. He had lived a long and productive life, rising from a poor barber's child to become one of the most famous industrialists in the world. His death, however, symbolized not only a personal loss, but also the end of an era. Arkwright's legacy was enduring. His inventions and factory system laid the foundation of the Industrial Revolution. Thousands of people in England were employed for the first time. Industrial centers formed in cities, production sped up, and quality improved. He was not just a wealthy businessman, he was a person who changed the world. If you enjoyed this video and love calm, peaceful, and interesting stories, don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll stay updated on our next videos and discover even more stories, knowledge, and tranquility with us. Thank you, and see you soon.